My policy here at Follow Me and Die is that I don't talk about real-world politics on my gaming blog and related social media. That being said, to all who don't get it, manners and basic human decency are not politics. Famous people on the news, like celebrities and politicians and their atrocious behavior, even though it's terrible, if they don't have a connection to tabletop role-playing games, that's outside the scope of my blog. However, when there are people at game conventions or involved in other aspects of tabletop gaming, acting in ways that shed a bad light on the game, that is within the purview of my blog. I don't know about you, but I want more players. Women want to play the game, not fend off creeps. 51% of the population should not be discouraged from playing. The more players, the easier it is to play, and the longer campaigns and game groups will last. Note, I am not vague booking. I am intentionally leaving out specific names and situations to address this in a way that will endure. This is only a first step. I haven't yet decided how to approach the topic of these specific individuals whose names and actions have been called out on various social media. I will say that I am greatly disappointed and saddened to learn about these things. I'm not afraid to speak truth to power. I want my words to be clear and direct and on point. I've spent hours on this post, all after writing a rant just to get it out of my system so that I could get to the point of table manners at the game table. This has been on my mind for some time, and I worked very hard to stay on point and not address places where I am sure someone will take issue with what I said or the way I said it. As my mother often said, common sense ain't so common. This is true of too many men when it comes to interacting with women, other men, and people who self-identify in ways that real men think they are compelled to try to be the alpha male. Unfortunately, this means we need some ground rules for general, decent behavior at the gaming table. Tabletop role-playing games exist as a means of entertainment and social gathering. They're meant to be fun for all the participants. If you're a game master, don't let your players be jerks to each other. If you have not yet mentioned this at your table and it comes up, give the offender one chance, depending on how blatant and crazy it is, and clarify your table rules. The next time must be the last. It's best just to avoid stumbling into the issue. Bring it up before it happens, in your current group and in all future groups. Make it a basic rule mentioned up front when you have a new group. Use it at conventions, if you run convention games, or at the friendly local game store if you run games in stores. If you are a player, say something. Defend your fellow player from the harasser. If the game master is the harasser, the entire table should call it out. If it happens after that, get out. Before it happens, mention to the game master that you'd like a blanket rule for the table. If the GM resists, this isn't the table for you. If you are the player who is being harassed, if it is the GM, call them on it. If no other player supports you, get out. If it is another player, ask the GM and other players what they're going to do about it. If they do nothing, or sadly side with the offender, get out. If the GM and players come to your aid, and they can work it out so that you feel safe and comfortable to stay, then at least you have the option to stay. I suggest going to your game master before you join in to ask for a clear, no-nonsense table rule about harassment of others. If you're a GM and are being harassed, if no players rise to your aid, and the offender is oblivious when you call them on it, then you should end the game. If other players call them out, try to work it out so this is the last time. And of course, before this happens, make this a table rule. In all of the above cases, if it happens a second time, the offender should be the one to leave. So here are some specific table manners you can use at your table. 1. We are here to have fun. 2. Everyone is to respect everyone else at the table. 3. Harassment of any kind is not tolerated. Comments about appearance or personal traits are not allowed. 4. Player versus player or PC versus PC actions are not allowed. The group of player characters is a party that is working together. There may be valid reasons of game mechanics where a character goes against the party, such as being charmed by an NPC wizard. There may be a reasonable way that a character does something harmful to the party, but only if it is something the whole group finds reasonable and acceptable. Other than a character being under magical or other influence, I don't have a good example, but things all the time come up in gameplay that no one can foresee. If you have some other good examples, let me know. 5. If you feel you have been treated unjustly by the game master or another player, please let us know. That is not okay. And to clarify, this is not about rule interpretations or game mechanics. This is only about common respect and decency. If there is any rule interpretation or game mechanic that goes against common respect and human decency, that should not even have an opportunity to be an issue. Of course, it's tricky if it happens after the game or between sessions. And number 6, add in your own rule for the line in the use of language that suits your intended pool of players, G, PG, PG-13, R, etc. Now, if you are a player or a game master that have a player versus player or an adult theme, these rules still apply. Number 4 will need revision to suit that style of your game, but make sure that all the players and the game master are on the same page about what form of roleplay is too far. Other than a general rubric to ensure that everybody's informed and consenting and adults with mutually agreed behavior rules, I don't know what to add. That's not a style of play I'd find interesting, so I'm only mentioning it generally. I'll leave the details of that aspect to those that want to play that type of game. I'm not going there. Finally, my table is open. I don't care who you are, what you look like, your opinions on politics, religion, or any other category you can think of. If you want to play a game that I'm running, and you're actually there to play the game, and will treat everybody with respect, you're welcome at my table. I have played with people who I know have vastly different opinions on some things than I do, and we still have fun together. These rules should also inform our public, private, and online behavior. For example, when messaging a woman who plays in an online game on Twitch, comments about her appearance have nothing to do with the game. The only exception is if she's dressed for the part. And then comments should be on point and related to the presentation of the costume in the game. Trolling and other behavior that proves one to be a sphincter is contrary to being a good ambassador of the game. Let me say that again. Don't be a sphincter. It's behavior like that, both in and out of the world of gaming, that has led to groups of all women with women GMs who don't want to let any men involved. Understandably, they want to feel safe to play a game they love or to discover a game they're curious about. Ideally, every table should be open to everyone that wants to play game X in genre Y. But we don't live in an ideal world, and those who don't like the idea of a table limited to women need to get over it. This is a sign that there is something wrong. It may not be you or your group that causes the problem, but there's some sphincter somewhere who did something that led to this. Instead of complaining about all women games, complain about the idiots that ushered so many women into wanting that time of play environment. If you want every table everywhere to be open to everyone, then call out bad behavior. And so whether you use my suggested table manners or your own variation, it should be clear there is no room for violations once the rules are shared and agreed to. And this should be true at conventions, game stores, private homes, or online. The goal is for all at the table to have fun and be waiting in anticipation of more fun at the next session.